What it do, Sneaker Don 11 YouTube fam? Is your guy back in the building, man? Y'all already seen the title and y'all seen that thumbnail. We have a versus video. This is a comparison of the Jordan 4 Reimagined, the Bred edition, man. I have a pair over this side from across the water, and I have a pair straight from the retail line from over at my guys at Finish Line over here to my right. Let y'all see that bag. Shouts out to Finish Line, man. I haven't gotten a dub on pretty much a walk-in in Finish Line in quite some time when it comes to, you know, these hyper shoes. Now, if you're new to the Sneaker Don 11 YouTube channel, do your guy a favor, hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up on this video. It does help out the algorithm. Now, we're going to get right up into the vid and what y'all here to see, man. Like I said, I got a nice pair of Jordan 4s. Like I said, across that water, replicated version, retail, Finish Line version, pretty much. Now, right off the back, I do see a color difference in the actual lids on the box. But however, that's really, like I always say, if you watch my videos, like what I always tell you guys, some of this stuff on a standalone, you won't really be able to tell. So I really like to get some of the main call outs out the way. But like I said, slight color difference. The lid on the actual retail is slightly darker of a gray than on the actual replicated version of the kicks. But however, one of the main things on this box, being that the boxes are about the same size, is that we have a label difference. Now, on the one from retail, which is on the top, you can see we have a woman's size on the actual label, whereas on the bottom box, which is the replicated version, we only have one size, which is the men's size. Of course, we have the UK size and all of that on both of them, but we don't have the woman size on the actual replicated version. Now, if you're looking to call these kicks out by the box, there you have it. That's one of the biggest things you want to look for. Now, in the inside of the box, y'all can see that receipt straight from Finish Line, just to let y'all see what's going on. Got all my info covered up, so no shadiness happening. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get these kicks up out the box so let y'all see what's going on so we can get into this video. Shouts out to everybody who's been subbed up and watching my videos as well. Y'all already know what time it is, man. These videos are for educational purposes. Now, in the inside of the box of the actual retail, we do have a green and white YDM sticker placed right here on the box. And we do have another piece of paper to cover the kicks, as well as the cemented printed paper. And it looks like that. Put that back in, get that back over there. Now, we're going to take a look at the actual inside of the replicated version. Where these come from is, boom, right over there. Now, I do have a standalone version of the pretty much replicated kicks. I have a standalone video. Y'all can go and check that out. It's up on the channel now. And y'all can see pretty much everything in whole just with a standalone video. Now, I have worn the actual rep. I actually was rocking these when I went to pick up these, which is the retail. But in the inside of the box, we do have a different location of the actual YDM sticker, but it's still in the inside of the box on the actual replicated version. Now, as far as the paper goes in the inside of the box, let me place these over here. As far as the paper go, I mean, like I said, standing alone, you probably won't really notice. It is a slight color difference. It seems to be more cement printed speckles going across on this retail version. And it seems like a lot more going on, whereas the cement printed speckles are bigger on the paper of the replicated version. And the retail is slightly thinner than the actual replicated version of paper in the inside. But like I said, on my channel, I like to put y'all up on this stuff that y'all gonna be able to easily call out. So if you was to get these off of the street on a resale, that would probably be a harder thing to point out versus having the actual both of them side by side in your hand, is what I'm trying to say. Now that I got both of these kicks about the box, we're gonna look at them and we're gonna do a stare down. And if y'all guys can see some stuff that y'all pretty much can point out off the bat that I don't point out in this video, just drop it down in the comments, man. I don't mind being corrected on something if it need to be corrected. Now, we're going to get all the way up in there. I'm going to let y'all see the actual retail first. Like I said, I got a standalone of the replicated version now. Off the back, man, the retail is looking very, very beautiful to me. I'm loving the shape of the pretty much overall shoe with that nice SB shape. And one of my favorite things about the shoe is the way the toe is kind of like has that pointed sleekness to it. I'm gonna give you guys a 360 on it. Everything is looking pretty good and pretty lovely on the kick. However, I do see some minor nitpick type of flaws that I will point out on these particular ones that I have in my hand from Finish Line. One of them is actually the air unit. It feels a bit, grimy up in there. It's not as cloudy, but it just feel like a little bit of paint, could have gotten on there. And it just feels a little bit of it's just like one of those type of weird feelings. Now, off the back, I'm going to let y'all guys see how clear the air unit is on the actual replicated version, and this is how it's looking. I don't know if on camera it's picking it up, but it's more of like a grayish tint on the actual retail on the replicated version in the air unit, whereas it's more of like a yellow tint in the air unit on the actual retail. And that's just one thing that I had wanted to point out, man. I had to drive like an hour and a half away. Luckily, I was already out on a family outing in the 757 in Virginia. If any of y'all know about the 757, y'all know how it is out there. And I was able to obtain these. I didn't get them from my actual local area, but that's why I be trying to tell y'all really got to be out in the street when y'all trying to get these shoes, man. If y'all really want to obtain a dub, because I struck out on sneakers. I struck out on the actual JD because I had exclusive access, and I struck out on there because the website completely crashed on the app. But just looking at the sneakers, man, and looking at the midsole, you can see on the actual, if I can get it a little closer, there's a tad bit more shinier on the midsole. This is one way that you can tell, because on the actual retail, overall, I'll say the feeling of the actual materials counts for about 2% of how off the replicated version is, in my opinion. Now, it's more texture in the leather. Now, the leather cuts can vary from retail to retail, from rep to rep, so I wouldn't even really take that and run with it. But on this particular one, I'm feeling a little bit more texture in that upper tumbled leather. And this is like a main call out on a lot of the Jordan 4s, where I'm feeling more texture on this actual midsole on the black part, and where the paint is all around it on the midsole. Whereas on the actual replicated is a lot more smoother, and you can see it because it's a little bit more shinier on camera, and it's just pretty much is smooth, where it's more of like a doll type of feeling on the actual retail. One, telltale sign that y'all gonna be able to tell that, the difference between the rep and the retail. Now, off the back, man, it's really not much of a difference though. On feet, like I say a lot of the time, on feet, you're really not able to say which one is the real and which one is the fake. However, in this video, I'm gonna let y'all know a lot of the differences that's gonna help you guys out. Now, in terms of the toe box, I would say the retail really nailed it when it comes to the toe box on its sleekness and all of that. And I'm gonna let you guys see both of these toe boxes up close. I have a left foot of the retail and I have a right foot of the replicated, and that's how it's looking now. On the one from across that water, they did their best to get that slant, but they didn't get it all the way on. But it can vary from, you know, the rep to rep or the retail to retail. All of the retails may not have as much of a sleekness of the toe box as this actual retail that I have right here from Finish Line has, but we'll just have to see that when, you know, pretty much you see the different retails in the market. But overall, when it comes to the actual color of red on the shoe, I would say that it's pretty much spot on as far as the reds. But I will say right now on camera, everything is looking about the same. But like if you was to see these like just in person, I'll say that the color of red is a tad bit more vibrant on the retail. However, it's not like a big difference or a big deal breaker if you was just in the market to save a little bit of money and get the actual replicated version over the retail if you want to dodge that resale, because the resale in this size 11 is sitting around 300, around that mark right now as I'm filming this video. And you know, next year the price is just going to go up a little bit more. Now I'm going to get the right foot of the actual retail, and then I'm going to stack it on top of the actual one from across that water. Now I had to clean the bottoms up on here because like I said, I wore these about 5 times for real. I've been rocking my replicated ones and I was pretty cool with them, but I like to get these educational videos out for y'all guys. So, you know, I had to go and grab the retail. But bottom wise, bottom is really nothing to call out. Either way, you wouldn't really be able to call out the bottom, considering that the bottom is going to be on the ground. Ain't nobody going to be seeing them. But it is a slight, maybe a slight darkness in the actual bottom of the reps. Because like I said, I've been wearing them. And, you know, when you clean them up, it's not going to get them back to that crystal white how you see on the upper right foot of the retail. Now, getting into some more of the actual call outs when looking at the actual shoes, I would say the gray is pretty much about spot on to the actual gray on the midsole on the actual rep. So it's nothing really that you can call out on that, I'll say, in my opinion. Now the cage may be, like, y'all let me know, it may be a little bit more sleekness in the cage and a little bit more of a sunk in on the cage of the retail versus the actual rep. But maybe it just be my eyes or me just nitpicking it. But other than that, man, even if you was to see both of these shoes on foot side by side, you wouldn't even really be able to tell those differences. As we look into the insider on the sock line and you see that gray in the inside, it's looking about the same. We got those rigidy type of lines in the inside of both. All of them, I mean, everything is looking about the same in the inside as far as on the gray sock liner, other than you can see the beady balls from me when I was wearing these from my socks and all of that goodness, man. Getting along to the back of both of the actual right foot anyway. And we can see that it's not much of a difference. We do see the Nike Air, and on both of them, the color of the Nike Air is about the same color and all of that. Is pretty much spot on almost to this actual retail that I have on my right side that it is on my actual replicated version that I have on my left side. And as y'all see, I had to check that out to make sure that I was looking at the correct shoe and I didn't get them confused. Now, on the back of the actual replicated version, we can see is a little bit more cleaner, in my opinion, when it comes to where this piece of leather connects. And you can see on the actual retail is like a minor imperfection where you can see that thread a little bit. That's why I tend to like not trip out if I can't hit on these actual retails, because, you know, a lot of the time across that water, they can make mistakes, and a lot of the time they can get a lot of things pretty much spot on. However, on that back tab, I know a lot of people like to pretty much judge based off the back tab, but it's really not like one of those things you can really say if it's real or fake based off of it. But it goes right down on the retail, which is to my right, and it goes right down and come back up on my replicated that's to my left. Now, like I said, man, both of the sneakers are very good looking sneakers. One of the main structural call outs that I can see is that the toe box, like I said, is a tad bit sleeker on the actual retail version. The stars at the bottom of both of the kicks, they are looking about spot on to each other. I'll say the stars are probably a tad bit more popping on the actual replicated version of them. However, you can see that slight bit of difference in the actual red, like I was trying to tell you guys. On the actual replicated version is a tad bit darker. Now, looking at the hang tags, now the hang tags, I'll say this is the retail hang tag right here. You can see on this side is more of a matte, and on the opposite side is more of like a glossier finish on the retail version. And that's how it looks. Nothing that'll peel up on there or anything. And giving you guys a look on the actual hang tag on the replicated version. This is how it looks on that side, and both sides pretty much looks about the same, somewhat of a glossy, but somewhat of a matte type of look. So if you're in the market to actually buy a retail on the resale market, I would say I would watch out for that, because like I said, on the opposite side is more of a glossy, like a shinier look and feel. And this is how it looked on the side with the Nike Air in the correct direction, and on both sides of the replicated version is about the same. So you want to look out for that, man. Now we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the video and what y'all really here to see. Y'all want to see some of the main call out differences in these sneakers, man. Now, on the actual retail version, in the inside, these were made and produced from the LN4 factory, and I'm gonna let y'all get a close-up on the actual info in there if I can get it in the camera. That's how it's looking. Let y'all read those dates. Now, these sneakers do be produced at different factories, so I wouldn't take that into major consideration, but I do want to get you guys an inside look so you can see. And on the actual replicated version is SZ factory, and I'm gonna let y'all see the info in the inside of there. But the footbed is where you're gonna pretty much find the main differences when it comes to these shoes. To me, I don't really like do a lot of the nitpicking on the actual stitching and stuff like that, because sometimes the retail can get it off and sometimes across that water can get it off. But this is the stitching on like the wing, maybe is a tad bit bigger of a stitch on the actual replicated version, but I'll let you guys be the judge before we get into the inside of the shoe. But that's how it's looking, man. I'm gonna get into the inside of this retail though, so y'all can see the inside on that footbed and see how that insole is looking. I'm gonna take the insole out of the actual retail and the insole out of the actual replicated version, and that's how we looking right here. We looking like that. Is a difference. This is the replicated version. We can see that squared off type of box, and pretty much we can see that it's more of a tannish off-white type of look on the replicated, and it's more of a crystal clear type of white on the actual retail version. And you can pretty much see that difference, man. You can take a screenshot of that, because that's a difference right there on the insoles. And like I said, it's a slight difference in the red, the retail having that more vibrant red and the replicated version having a more darker appearance. As far as the Nike logos go, is about the same. We still have that size and label in the inside of the kicks. And as we get into the actual insole, this is how the replicated version, well, this is how the retail version, let me correct that. This is how the retail version is looking in the inside. Sometimes we can confuse these sneakers from looking over them, but in the inside, we can see how that stitching is looking in there. We can see those numbers under the insole, and we can see how it's looking in the inside. And I'm gonna give y'all a peek into the actual replicated version. So the main thing you can tell the difference on the replicated version, so I won't get it confused myself, as well as you can see the beauty balls on the sock line from me actually wearing the replicated version. But you can see in the inside, we actually have some stamped in numbers in there. And y'all can see everything that's going on as far as how the stitching looking. Now, on the retail, as far as all of the retails I've seen, you don't have a stamp in the inside. So pretty much that wraps up how the inside look, man. Y'all need to watch out for that, you know, because other than that, man, these shoes are very, very hard to really point out on, you know what I'm saying, the market to see whether which one is real and which one is fake. As far as if you're just trying to call somebody out, I'll say you kind of out of luck when it comes to that, man. You ain't calling nobody out on feet when it comes to either of these shoes to say whether if this the retail or if that's the replicated. You ain't gonna be able to call nobody out. But like I said, these videos for educational purposes. But we're gonna get these lights cut off and we're gonna look at how these shoes look under the black light and see if we got some point out, you know, details that we can see under that black light. So we have the retail right here, and let's see how it's looking. I wish I could get it a little bit darker in the building, but we don't have that much darkness because it's light outside and I got that daylight peeking in. But that's how it's looking on the actual retail version of the kick right here. You can see how I look up in the air unit. See how I look? The flight is glowing up on the tongue of the shoe. And on the replicated, let me see how it look up in the air unit. The air unit, it doesn't have much of a glow than it have on the actual retail. So that's like a call out right there. So if you're looking at these kicks under the black light, you can see that glow in the inside, and you don't really see much of a glow in the inside of the actual replicated version. The replicated version, I'm seeing more of this like infrared type of red, or like this like more glow of a red on the replicated version, more than what I'm seeing on the retail version. Yeah, the retail version kind of holds its color, whereas on the replicated version is more like of an infrared under the black light. So that's something y'all gonna want to watch out for right there. Yeah, and it's going throughout the whole shoe as far as the red on the sole area of the shoe. However, the flight on the tongue, it actually glows, and you can see the Jumpman on the tongue. Jumpman looking pretty good as well compared to the actual retail Jumpman. So that's probably like the main call outs under the black light. We looking at the color is more of like a glowing type of red on the actual outer sole of the rep, and on the retail, you know, that's the difference. Let me put it side by side though. Let me put one on top of the other. I'm gonna put the retail on top of the actual replicated version. That's gonna wrap up the black light segment of this video, y'all. I'm already like 24 minutes in. Wasn't trying to hold y'all that long, but sometimes we got to do what we got to do when we want to point out these differences. I hope you guys found this video very educational and entertaining. And if you haven't, make sure you sub up to my channel. I drop dope educational videos on regular on this channel, y'all. Other than that, I'm out for this one. Peace, and I love y'all.